Friends, this is Carter, and welcome to this episode of Making It Up, the podcast where two writers just sit back and try to figure out what questions to ask each other. I mean, maybe it's not quite that haphazard, but it is an unscripted, kind of a behind-the-scenes conversation. And I tend to usually go through, kind of a writer's journey over the years from when they started writing, when they started wanting to write, leading up to discussing whatever they currently have published. But today's guest actually is a repeat guest, so I've already gone through all of that, and I'll get to her in just a minute. Before I do, just, I always try to think of what I'm going to promote on this, and I feel like I've got a lot going on, but I do have Unbound Writer if you're looking for any kind of coaching or online classes, and we're going to be announcing a new seminar relatively soon that's going to take place here live in Colorado. But I thought I'd kind of shout out my YouTube channel. So YouTube is where Carter Wilson author, you can go there and see all of these episodes of Making It Up, as well as on my website. You can see all of my highlight clips. But I also have a section on YouTube for Unbound Writer, where I do have a lot of just writing tip videos. I actually have writers meditations for writers that I've created. I've got about 8 or 9 of those now. So if you're looking to kind of still your mind and become inspired, or to try to kind of ease off some of that anxiety that maybe you feel, that we all feel as we sit down and contemplate not only our writing, but our kind of place in the world with writing, our careers, that might be something that you want to check out as well. So it is just at Carter Wilson Author on YouTube. Check that out. All right, today's guest. So today I had my friend Lori Roy back on the show. I talked to Lori about a year ago, so August of 2024. So you can go to carterwilson.com and you can search out that old episode. And that episode is really going to go through her kind of her inception as a writer through her publishing time period as well. And she is now back with her 7th book, just titled The Final Episode, just came out in June of 2025. So Lori is crime fiction like I am, kind of Southern Gothic. She's a 2-time Edgar Award winning author. She's actually the first female author who was awarded the Edgar for first her best debut, and then secondly best novel. So she's got chops, man. She knows what she's doing. So this conversation was very free form, focused a lot on kind of just the state of the industry now, how she sees her role in it, how she's evolved over time, how her voice has perhaps changed. And kind of, we spent a decent amount of time talking about the publishing industry and things you got to do for social media and things you got to do if you're out there touring, and how to try to maintain an authentic voice, not only on the page, but in person in a time when authenticity is ironically very easy to replicate. I think it was a kind of a deep conversation, followed by a great little storytelling, which she claims is better than the last time she did it. I thought it went quite well. So that's it. This is a great episode. This is my 2nd time that I've had a fantastic conversation with Lori Roy. Because I know you're recent, right? As the final episode, and that came out in June, I believe, and that was your 6th book. Is that correct?
That is my 7th.
7th book. Okay, so we've both been doing this for a while. Obviously, you're a 2-time Edgar winning author. You've established kind of a history, and I was talking to Joe Fender the other day at a writers conference, and we were both saying, I would hate to be a debut right now or an aspiring author right now, because there's so much noise, and who knows what the next few years are going to be like in terms of AI generated content getting extreme, and it's just nice to have at least whatever it's going to look like. At least we have a history that we've established. I don't. Do you have a sense of that at all? That same feeling?
I do. I wonder, I do wonder what will become of just the written word in general.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about AI to know how good it is yet.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know it's good, but can it, like one thing I went out and did was I Googled my own bio. Or I didn't Google it. I went to whatever Chat GPT or
Yeah.
whatever you call it. And half of it was wrong,
Right.
which
Totally.
is kind of disconcerting when you're reading about yourself. It's like, I didn't go to Kansas University. I didn't grow up in Wichita. Where'd that come?
Right. Because it can definitely conflate between two different names and two different figures and all sorts of different things. And yeah, but it is going to get better and better and better. And that's, I think, what scares me the most. But there's also a weird piece in knowing like it's not going anywhere. I can't control
No,
it. I
no.
can I
Well,
can control what I do.
it's like the computer displacing the typewriter. I mean, I hope that the AI is not displacing the writer, but it's coming one way or another.
Right, right. And it's funny when you think about it because effectively it's killing any kind of days of plagiarism because you just don't need to anymore, right? You can, that thought hit me the other day. I'm like, there will literally be, because I remember in the romance community, there was a massive problem maybe a couple years ago with plagiarism, and it was really a bad thing. And I'm like, that's just not going to exist anymore because you don't need to.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, and it's funny, so one of the things, one of my side companies that I have is, I have a communications coaching company where a partner and I teach public speaking. And we were at an event yesterday and there was maybe 100 people there. And one of my comments was that, you standing in front of people with your vulnerability and your authenticity and your voice, that's like your currency of the future because that can't be
Yeah.
replicated. And one step back from that is your voice as an author, I think. Yes, AI can probably replicate it, but you writing those words in the style that are undeniably Lori Roy, that's your currency. And there's not much else because most else is going to be replaced.
I one of my comforts is that I do think the theme of the work, the heart of it,
Mhm.
that will be the hardest thing for AI to ever replicate
Yeah, and
because it doesn't.
right. The big picture, the big like the stuff that you don't even notice on first read, and then after a while you're like, oh, even as an author that you don't notice on the
Yeah.
first read because it's
But
your
yeah,
subconscious putting that theme
absolutely.
in there.
Or understanding this happens to me, and it happened with this book. I don't know what it's about until it's done.
Right.
And sometimes it's on a shelf, and I start to realize what certain things mean. And that that depth of the work, I don't think that, because if you don't have a heart, you can't pour your heart into it. You can't
Right.
have that passion or that point of view. You can fake it, but that's sort of like the writer that writes to an agenda.
Right. Or to a market.
Yeah, you hear it, and
Right.
it's like just nails on a chalkboard. And yeah, we've all seen that. Like sometimes when
Yeah.
I'm teaching, occasionally I'll see that.
Yeah, sometimes people call it soulless. I tend to call it two-dimensional, where it's just like it's serviceable, but it's forgettable. Like you finish and you're like, yeah, that hit all the beats and the writing maybe was distinct. Um, but I didn't attach to it at all. And you're totally right about you don't know it until you finished it. And sometimes I don't even know thematically what it is until my editor reads it. And
And they tell you.
yeah, well they'll give you so something that's going to come out next year. We went through and she loved it. They bought it, obviously, but she's like, there's something about it. And we talked through it. And she's like, I just feel like it's somehow too masculine, even though the primary point of view is from a woman. And I'm like, that's so interesting. And so I restructured it. And so now a second point of view went from masculine to feminine. And all of a sudden, the theme that I thought was maybe the book is totally obvious now. It's like I needed to make that change in order to bring everything together. And yet I still couldn't see that for myself, which I think is kind of cool because,
Yeah.
you need to step back and you need to have that second voice, the voice you trust, to be like, well, maybe if we did this, and we weren't even trying to make it more thematic, right? We were trying to solve some other issue, and then all of a sudden that worked. It's just, and you're right, that's something that can never be replaced because that's true, kind of just two people who love stories talking.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a great editor. I
It's,
mean, that's,
yeah, I've been with
yeah.
her for 6 books now, and it's, oh, as you know, it's always overwhelming at first because you get this editorial letter that just feels like Sisyphean,
If you read like this.
that you're just, yeah, it's just insurmountable. And then it's funny, once you get to that level of your career where you have enough confidence to say, I don't know how I'm going to fix this based on her comments, but I know I can,
Yeah.
then things fall into place because you're just like, all right, you've gone through all of this before. You can do it again. Yeah, it's going to
Yeah.
suck and it's going to take maybe months. Do you go through similar experiences with your editor? Well, now you're with Thomas and Mercer now. Is this the first time? Your first book?
This was my second book with them.
Okay, got it.
This was my second. Lake County was with them as well.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and I had a few different editors. Sorry, that's my ring going off.
I
Um,
don't even hear it.
a few different editors at Dutton, and then my editors at Thomas and Mercer. And I've been very fortunate. I've had great editors. And yeah, I think that's if anything, after getting a few books under my belt, I never feel like it gets any easier, but I
Mhm.
feel like I'm better at if somebody says to me like there's a problem with the voice sounding too masculine. They may not know how to fix it, but I'm confident that I can figure out how to fix it.
Yeah, totally.
And sometimes the fix might be different than what someone else thinks, but that's if I've gained any knowledge over these 7 books, that's about it, I think.
I know but that's kind of the beauty of it too, is that it's just you're eternally striving for greatness or even for betterness. And so you just, I just turned 55. I'm like, I'm always learning. I love this. It's not, you're not at a corporate job where you know totally what's expected and you can kind of just do that and not
Yeah.
try to challenge yourself. And the flip side of it, of course, is that it's hard. it's, it's
Yeah.
aggravating. I feel like I've gotten better at understanding readership more than with my 10th book. I'm like, all right, I'm finally getting to an idea where I know, like, and that means pacing for sure. It means how much I
Mhm.
describe, economy of words for the thriller, and the patience of thriller readers who will
It's
read
just
every word
like,
of your book, but they're not going to put up with your ramblings.
yeah, yeah. That's a fast-paced genre for sure.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
So, what has changed for you besides that in terms of, it's funny they talk about like football players when they advance and they finally learn the game, they say things slow down. Like on the field, things slow down because they're just able to
Mhm.
see things now. Not everything's so much chaos. Have you felt that you've been able to like now start a project and have a clearer vision for it, more excitement for it, or anything else that's changed?
Um, that part for me has not changed.
Mhm.
Just the starting. a book, and I've tried different things. I'll listen to other writers, what works for them, and some, take notes, some write like on a big sheet of paper on their wall, or I just have to rattle around in it for a while. And
You and me both.
I'm generally not a very happy person during that time of the book, because it's just so much in there. Like, and how does it fit? Like, how does it all fit? And I'm kind of in that point right now. So I don't know if talking about it's a good thing or not, but.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear you. And just a quick note for the listeners out there, Lori, you and I talked last year. So if listeners want to kind of hear your journey, because we're probably not going to go through that again, that episode was a year ago. It was August 2024. So they can go check that out for sure. But just to kind of go through, as you were saying, you're mentioning down, you have to kind of rattle around through it. So you're approaching your craft from a pantser point of view. Maybe you know a little bit of something about the story, but you don't know the bones of it until your fingers are moving on that keyboard.
Until they've been moving on the keyboard for about 6 months. I'll start it. Yeah, usually I like to start with setting. And with the book I'm working on, I thought I'd settled on a setting and I'd written a good bit of it, but it wasn't resonate. I don't even know. I don't want to use some highfalutin author word. It just wasn't working for me. And we happened to go on, when I was touring with this book, we were up in South Carolina at Beaufort, South Carolina, which is Pat Conroy country.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just something about being there that I started. It's almost like the smell of the book.
Right.
That makes sense, which of course doesn't. But yeah, I like setting, but that doesn't make a story, but it's a starting point.
No, and it's settings. Yeah, I'm 100% with you, because I like to jump around, because all mine are standalones, and I like to jump around places and maybe build a world where setting is related, but not necessarily the exact same place. And because you start thinking of setting, it becomes very evocative. Like, I picture, for example, South Carolina, like lush, humid, almost kind of that Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil kind of anything can happen here.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, you're like, setting can be a character, but it can't be the main character. I can't sacrifice a great story and a great emotional voice for the fact that it's in an interesting location.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of feel that as well?
Well, I think what interests me about a location is that it creates obstacles and opportunities for the characters. Like the book that's out now is largely set in the swamp.
Wow.
So that's not too hard to figure out.
No.
How a swamp might play into a crime fiction,
right. Right.
book.
Right.
And so that's because I never really know why one will resonate with me, but I think that's what it is. It's just so powerful. Like, I can't stop taking pictures. It drives my husband crazy. We're walking through some marsh and I'm taking pictures from every angle imaginable and video and telling him to be quiet and stay out of the shot. And
yeah.
But so it's a character in as much as it causes action in the book.
So
it results in action.
And in that particular case where maybe you're on tour and you go to South Carolina and perhaps it's not a place you're real familiar with and it just resonates with you, oh great, this is now going to be my place. Now, what is in your mind your responsibility to research the hell out of the place, spend more time there, or is it, okay, I've got my emotional sense of this place, and that's enough for me to lay the foundation and then pepper in facts or, things that are relevant to this place that will
Yeah.
ground it a little bit.
Well, I think it's a huge responsibility to do it right,
Hmm.
to try to do it right. I may fictionalize a town or something, but an example I like to use, I wrote a book that was set on a tobacco farm in Kentucky back in the 30s and 50s. It popped back and forth. And I sat down and talked with some people that were older than me and had grown up and been kids working a tobacco farm for their family.
Hmm.
So we were talking about picking the tobacco leaves.
Hmm.
And they'd be like, well, yeah, we picked the leaves and put them in here. Or no, we were talking about picking the worms off the tobacco leaves.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, we pick them and throw them in a bucket. And I'm like, wait a minute, what did they look like? Well, they looked like this and that. And then we kill them and throw them in the bucket. Wait a minute, how did you kill them? Well, we popped their heads off with our thumb.
Right.
And
That's the
and
detail
it was
you
just,
need, by the way.
yeah, digging down, and like the tobacco leaves left black residue on their hands, which would make them sick if they didn't wash it off. And
Hmm.
I kept saying, wait a minute. And we go one step deeper and deep. So that's what I try to do. Like
Yeah.
understand it from, the ground up. I learned that the horses in Kentucky are so fabulous because there's limestone shelf that feeds the bluegrass and they eat that. And
Huh.
the readers may not ever see that,
Right.
but that sparks my interest and my passion for the setting. And I hope that comes through in the writing.
Yeah. I mean, my experience has been with writers who research well, do it because they love the research. And I'm kind of the opposite. I'm not crazy about research. So I tend to place myself in positions where research isn't critical because I'm writing first person present tense point of view from somebody who's not necessarily an expert in anything.
Yeah.
um, but then when there are instances where you have to know something, you obviously want to make sure you get it right. So you're talking about a book that not only is in a location that you really want to understand, in a very specific location, but it's also very specific to time periods, which exponentially adds to the amount of work that you have to do to make sure you capture those voices, not only from obviously trying to interview people who maybe have lived through that location in time, but essays from people and which I just have so much respect for. But all of a sudden, you're like, well, I was hoping to get this draft done in 6 months, but it's taken me 4 months just to research.
Yeah.
Do you run into that?
Um, yeah, I don't know that the research is when I have, I've written a book as fast as like Lake County. I couldn't write fast enough.
Hmm.
I have no idea why. I wrote it in under 3 months. And that other books have taken me 3 years.
Right.
Um,
Totally.
and I suppose that just, it's one of those, it is what it is.
Right.
I'm better now. I'm in the 1 to 1.5 year range for a draft.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I try to do 7 to 8 months for that, literally for that shitty first draft where I've barely even
Mhm.
looked at it as I've been writing and I'm not outlining. So God knows there's characters I've forgotten about, and I mean it's rough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but you just have to just plow through it. That's my feeling of like the hardest thing to do is writing that first draft. It's also sometimes like with Lake County, the most joyous thing because it's just flowing for whatever reason, flowing right out of you. Was that
Yeah.
weird though? After writing something, it's funny because my very first book, which never sold, I wrote in 3 months, and I've never written that fast again. And I think it's because it was just a terrible book, and I didn't know what I was doing. Um, but was that weird for you after writing, that manuscript in 3 months and then being like, oh, now I'm back to a year and a half again after that?
Um, yeah, except it was it was like the adrenaline that comes when, I think that's for me anyway, when I'm doing first draft, I can only write couple hours a day
Yeah.
because it is an exhausting thing. And there was so much adrenaline when I was writing Lake County that I would just be exhausted after, like, I would just sit back, like, I'm exhausted by this. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's one of those how do you make sense of something like that? I don't know if I suppose if I could repeat it, I would
Right.
just so I could get through that first draft that quickly. And so I do think back on it and I try to, why did characters come so easily? Why did points of view come so easily?
Yeah.
Um,
It's
who
hard.
knows?
Yeah, I remember my fifth published novel, Mr. Tender's Girl, which was my eighth written book because my first three didn't sell, was like that. It wasn't that fast, but it was just like I'm just getting this. Like I see it all. Even though I'm not outlining, I see it as it's happening. And when I look back on it now, and I'm curious to know if you've kind of had this experience, or maybe if Lake County was perhaps this experience. I look back on it now, I'm like, that's my voice. I think I think I hadn't fully formed my voice until I got to that
Mm,
book. It also coincided with that shift from third person to first person, which is kind of what I just do now. And it was just more organic for me. I'm like, this is the POV and the tense that I need to be in because I connect to it best. Have you had that
yeah.
kind of feeling?
Um, no, I don't think it was because I feel like I don't think it was a voice thing, and it wasn't a unique structure for me. It had multiple points of view. Um, I don't know.
Yeah.
I honestly, I just don't know. The final episode came pretty easily. I have some points of view of children, 10, 11, 12-year-old
Mm.
girls.
Hmm.
Um, I love writing a child's point of view. It's very, um, children are not jaded. They're not filtered like we get jaded as we grow older.
And absolutely
Um,
wiser than we give them credit for. Because they've
well,
just been
yeah, very
soaking
wise.
everything in through no filter, and all of a sudden you're like, "Wow, where did that come from?"
Yeah, and they just tell it like it is.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, I just don't know.
Uh,
I,
how has with seven books, how has the industry changed for you in terms of, because you've been with more than one publisher, as have I, and you're starting to get a sense of, because it takes a long time to get a sense of how does this work?
yeah.
And along with that, just the whole idea of self promotion. How has all that evolved? Do you feel like you're a little bit more savvy now than you were, or things are just spiraling even further out of control?
Oh, well, probably depends on the day, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I came into as a writer, I came out of the corporate world where I was a tax accountant.
Hmm.
So I was very familiar with, the corporate side of things. I worked for Hallmark Cards, not as a writer, as a tax accountant. So, I knew obviously that's not the same as publishing, but I knew about sales forces. I knew about,
Right.
I worked with a lot of marketing and advertising executives and, um, the social media stuff is a huge change from when I first started.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, of course. I mean, yeah, we were starting before there really was a social media.
yeah, I think that's when I got a Facebook page was when, my book was about to come out and,
Yeah.
um, yeah, that just, and that I don't know that some authors I think are more comfortable with it, are better at it, enjoy it more, whatever than others.
Yeah.
But it's it's necessary. And what I do love about it is it's a chance to connect with readers.
Totally. Yep.
That's how you can, you almost don't even have to ask the question anymore. How do readers get a hold of you? Because all they can get a hold of, you get a hold of anybody
Right.
so easily now.
Right. Right. Right.
One quick Google and there is a list of ways to get in touch with somebody. So
Yeah,
and
it's a racket to try to keep on top of all of it, but to your point, it's necessary. And I think you have to think a little critically about it, about because there's the low hurdles of just like I'll post whatever 4 times a week, and it might be a very bland just post that you have a sense of I'm, keeping my name out there. But those are diminishing returns, I think, these days. I think, the way that I look at it for myself personally is like I'm leaning more into video content where I'm just speaking off the cuff and trying to be authentic and not trying to be super packaged and, sharing vulnerabilities or whatever it is, because I think that's real. And, because otherwise I'm like, here's my events, here's this, here's my dog.
yeah, I do a lot of the dog.
Yeah, and nothing wrong with that, because I think that's something that's when I look back on my posts, like if there's a pic of me that has either my kids or my dog in it, those are the ones that get the most likes. And that tells you what you need to know. But it's harder and harder to stand out or to even maintain any kind of conversation about you. Um, and most authors don't want a conversation about them. Most authors are like, I don't want to be seen by anybody. And that's kind of just the existential problem, I think, with a lot of it.
Yeah. Well, again, it's just one of those things. It's here. It's not going anywhere.
Right.
I don't, I don't think there's any great connection between how many followers somebody has and how good their book is.
Right. Or how good their sales are.
But yeah, and they may get them but it doesn't reflect on the quality of the work necessarily, but it can. I mean, a great writer can have a great following, and they're two totally separate things.
Yeah.
But it does feed, it feeds the book talk and it feeds the bookstagram, and
right.
That's just where the marketing is now.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think that's a really good point to underscore for any listeners who are aspiring or even established writers, is exactly that. Is social media is a tool that can help you market. You just marketing the book through your channels, goes only so far. And that distance is probably much shorter than you would hope or think. But influencers can drive it further and further and further. But behind all of it has to be a book that they embrace, right? Yes. Are there Instagram influencers who are being paid to herald your book? Sure. I'm sure there are, just as they are for travel or for anything else. But nothing sells books like that organic word of mouth. And that doesn't happen unless people are connecting to what you've written, I feel like. That doesn't mean, again, to your point, that doesn't mean it has to be a good book. It can be a book that just hits. Maybe it gets critically, lambasted. I don't know. But if it hits, it hits. And it's because something about it just connected with people. And that's the thing, so that kind of happened with Tell Me What You Did, my latest book. And I look at it and I'm like, how do we replicate it? And you can't. You can't. Yeah. Maybe it's this one element. The book was kind of about a true crime podcast. Maybe that's the thing that people like most, and I'm not doing that again. So you just don't know. And I came from a corporate world like you. I'm a data guy. I like to see what are the trends, what are the, how can I mathematically prove X, Y, and Z? And the publishing industry is just the polar opposite. I mean, the publishers don't know what makes a bestseller.
Yeah, it's just like it's lightning.
Yeah.
And but yeah, all that said, it's something that you got to do.
Yeah.
I think to at least be accessible to readers, to be able to get a little behind the scenes of a book or the writing world, or um, just how to send you a message and say, hey, I read your book, or hey, I'm from that town, or whatever it might be.
Totally.
um,
And if you can be, I think the good thing, I think one thing that it does do, and I've learned this over the years, I think, is because we're sitting here as authors and we're like, oh, we got to do this post or whatever we have to do. And to your point, you are kind of lifting the curtain a little bit on your personal life. And if you're resistant to that, which I think totally is valid if you are, it's harder. And the more you do it, the more it's almost kind of like, for me at least, I feel like it's almost cathartic in a way of like exposing yourself in a way where you're just like, yeah, this is who I am. As long as you're being authentic, there is something that's rewarding about that because you've kind of exposed yourself as vulnerable and you got through it. And you do it more and more and more as long as you're not being kind of a show person about it and as long as you are being genuine about who you are. Yeah, this is my mess of a kitchen or whatever. This is how I live. I hate my
my
kids
mess in the
today.
office over
Right,
there.
right,
You can't see
exactly.
it.
There's something kind of rewarding about that from our point of view of just like, yeah, I let you know a lot and I'm comfortable with that. I don't know if you feel that sense as well.
um I certainly do with the work, with the work, talking about my work and what it means, you know, not necessarily to me, but what the book is saying in the larger sense, and talking about those kind of things. Um, I'm really comfortable and like the opportunity to share with especially aspiring writers, what were the hardships and the insecurities and getting published, and then the big news is those things don't go away.
Right.
Um, if I think if I, you still just brace for it, and
Totally.
but yeah, I'm I watch like TikTok and stuff and see people that are so good at it, just talking about, like, how did they even think to talk about that? A friend of mine who's not a writer can just pop on and talk about something, and she's just very, very suited for it.
Right. Yeah, and it is
I
kind of knowing what you're good at and knowing what you're suited for because we're all suited for something.
Yeah.
So don't shoehorn yourself into a role that maybe isn't natural to you. Um, and do you get with Thomas and Mercer, do they give you any kind of feedback? Do they go through and audit your social media? It's like you should be doing more of this, or hey, or help you with like content at all?
No, yeah, with content for sure. But their focus has always been, we want you writing the book.
Right, right, because you have deadlines.
And yeah, well, and just that's, in an ideal world, I think that's what all writers would probably love for themselves,
Yeah,
to focus on the work, because this is a whole nother part of the job
yeah,
that is pretty new.
yeah,
Relevance has come along in the course of our careers. Um, so yeah,
yeah,
and so I don't know. They're very supportive of, put your heart into what you're doing. You know.
yeah. And in addition to all of that, and circling back to what you said earlier, you're on book tour, and which has always been around, but being out there, being live, being interviewed, or you are alone at an event and 30, 40 people in the bookstore and you've got to talk to them. And a lot of people aren't comfortable with that. And some authors will hide behind a 20-minute reading or whatever. and you've got to really develop, if you've really got to develop that skill. And I bring this up because I was just interviewing Josh Moling, who is just a card carrying introvert. he's like, I almost canceled your podcast because of the storytelling bit. And I'm friends with him. I know. And, I remember he was saying, like, right up to the launch of his debut, he emailed, we have a mutual PR person because we have the same publisher. He emailed her, he's like, yeah, I don't want to do anything. And I just am not comfortable going to stores. And she wrote back, she's like, put on your big boy pants. You are absolutely doing this. Get over it.
Yeah.
And he's like, and then I did it and it was great. He's not saying that it was seamless or without kind of terror at points, but that is your chance to connect with people who are, my God, they're buying your book. That's amazing. To meet people who
Yeah.
are reading your book and are fans.
Yeah. No, I love the talking to readers. I can
Yeah.
stand in front of 300 people and talk for an hour without a single note. I mean, talking about sort of finding what you're comfortable with, finding your angle. That part I love.
Yeah.
Put me in a cocktail party where I got to bounce around and talk to people.
That's
Like
not your
one,
thing.
I'm not so good at that.
That's not your thing.
So yeah, yeah, I do really enjoy meeting and talking with readers, and yeah,
That's great. That's great.
that's a part that I do love.
So the final episode just came out. What's coming out next for you?
Um, just I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Not really ready to say a whole lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although it's I'm sticking with kind of the Southern Gothic,
Yeah.
gritty, steamy vibe.
Also a
Um,
Thomas and Mercer book.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 I don't have a launch date or anything,
Yeah.
so we'll see.
We are in the same boat. I think it's all I know is it's going to be late next year.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's how it goes. Well, Lori, we're going to wrap up. But before we do, we're going to get to your second story. I haven't had a lot of repeat guests on this show. So you've had a year to get this
Well, I'm
down,
no better at it
to work on
than
your
I was
improv
before.
skills.
No
As
better.
a as a reminder for the listeners, this is the part where I select 3 books at random, and Lori's going to choose one book. And we're going to choose a random sentence from a random page, and that's going to be the first sentence in like maybe a 2-minute long short story. So we'll just alternate back and forth until it's completely horrid and off the rails. I don't remember what book we used last time, but I've got Harlan Coben's The Innocent, Jess Lurie's The Reaping, and Claire McIntosh's The Last Party. So choose one of those.
Let's go with Jess's.
Okay. Creepy, creepy, creepy. Give me a page between 1 and 300.
127.
Okay. I'm going to quickly scan 127 and see if we can find a good line to work with. All right, we've got some dialogue going on. All right, you can you can do whatever you want with this.
Uh-oh.
So we've got Harry and we've got Evangeline. Harry was surprised by a fire in his belly. Evangeline was an attractive woman.
Um, he took a sip of seltzer water to see if that would help, but it didn't.
He was really glad he had stopped drinking 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it wouldn't have been seltzer water in his hand. It would have been straight up whiskey, and it wouldn't have been his first. And Evangeline would have been a lot more than attractive to him. she would have been undeniable.
When she pushes off the wall where she's leaning and starts to walk towards him, he pushes off the table and grabs that bottle of Maker's Mark and goes ahead and pours a couple fingers.
It stunned him how quickly 10 years evaporated. The same sensation, the same feeling, the same desires, the endorphin rush that just drew him closer and closer to her. And he thought it was in his mind, but after he swallowed that first sip, he realized he was standing too close to her.
The last time he saw Evangeline was 10 years ago, the day he took that last drink. And now she's ruined him again.
Oh, we keep it there. That's great.
I feel bad that I just did this to this guy.
I was inching towards all of a sudden Evangeline's got a knife in her hand. but that felt like a good emotional end right there.
Yeah.
That was good. That was good.
That was better than last time.
I don't remember last. I don't remember any of them because I've done so many. I've had some people go, and then there was a gun. I'm like, okay. Well, Lori, what a pleasure to catch up with you again. I know we kind of quickly saw each other at Thriller Fest. Are you going to be in New Orleans for BoucherCon?
No, I'm not. Not this year.
All right.
No BoucherCon.
Well, I'm sure I will connect with you in person sometime again. And congratulations on the final episode. And looking forward to seeing what comes next from you.
Great. Thanks so much.
Take care, Lori.
Take care.
Bye. So that's it. That is my second conversation with Lori Roy, and I kind of grooved on where that little story was heading. I think it was heading to a bad place for our male lead, but who knows? Maybe I'd be surprised. You can check out Lori's new book and all things Lori Roy at her website, which is loriroy.com. So I encourage you to investigate that. And you can check out my website, carterwilson.com, for more episodes of this show, for my blogs, for links to Unbound Writer, and of course, for all of my books. So that's it. Thanks. Thanks as always for watching and or listening. I hope this episode resonated with you in one way or another, and I appreciate all the support in this almost nearly 200th episode of mine. All right, friends, another episode out just next week. In the meantime, take care.